Analog mastering can help you make records that stand out. It can help you create your distinctive trademark sound. However, not every song needs to be mastered with analog equipment. Some music won't benefit from it at all. What type of analog mastering does your song need? Stay tuned to find out. Hi, I'm Ivan from Major Mixing, and today we're talking about analog song mastering and if it will be a good choice for your song. The mastering process with analog equipment means that a mastering engineer sends your track from a DAW to analog gear, where it passes through an equalizer, compressor, distortion, clipper, and other analog devices. In the end, the signal is converted back to digital form and routed to the DAW. Let's stop for a moment and think what is so valuable about analog processing. I mean, the progress goes forward, but we keep turning backwards to analog mixing and mastering. What is the logic behind all of it? Isn't digital music more precise and of higher quality? It is true that digital recordings and processing leave less room for error and produce less noise. But when our civilization switched to digital music processing, we understood that we missed analog sound. Most of the sound qualities that analog equipment creates are actually beautiful, and analog saturation and distortion are very pleasant to a human ear. The analog processing adds saturation, which is beautiful harmonics and soft compression. It helps to gently reduce transients. It lowers frequency response in the high frequencies and adds warm analog noise. Moreover, not only does this analog saturation add beauty to the recording, but each piece of equipment modifies the sound in its own unique way. Although what kind of analog harmonics sound better is still a matter of discussion. One thing is for certain, adding pleasant harmonics to a sound makes a whole world of difference. With added harmonics, the sound becomes more powerful and beautiful. Harmonics affect the timbre, determining how rich the sound appears to the listener. These qualities are essential for recorded vocals, but of course they also enrich live instrument recordings beautifully. Fortunately for the digital industry, analog effects are not completely unpredictable and may be analyzed and emulated with software plugins. Many genres definitely benefit from analog warmth and saturation, but that doesn't mean that analog devices should be immediately used in mixing and mastering. Emulation plugins have been created that will transform digital recording the same way analog devices would. Lots of legendary audio devices have been recreated as digital plugins, so mixing and mastering houses can easily use them instead of analog hardware. However, it's impossible to create one universal emulation plugin that would mimic the analog effects on the sound because the saturation related to each machine is different. Not only does this analog saturation add beauty to the recording, but each piece of equipment modifies the sound in its own unique way. The thing is that many legendary analog audio devices still have not been emulated with plugins, and many of them never will, simply because the owners would not license it. As a result, digital mastering cannot completely replace analog. Hardware analog mastering can create sounds with much more interesting harmonic and versatile analog effects than emulation does. You can hear the pure analog effects, not the emulation, in most top Billboard songs today. All this creates high demand for the use of analog devices in mixing and mastering music. However, not every song will benefit from analog music qualities. The warmth and natural saturation work better for some genres, for example, jazz, blues, folk, classic rock, and others. As a rule, the more music involves acoustic instruments and the more natural the sound is, the more analog mixing and mastering qualities will empower the mix. Electronic music, for instance, does not require classic saturation and warmth. On the contrary, it needs digital clarity and huge transients, and it's mixed and mastered to be very precise and bright. At the same time, regardless of the genre, certain fundamental effects of analog music may go well with a certain song. Sometimes it just comes down to the producer's or artist's preferences, whether they like the mix better with analog harmonics, distortion, and warmth, or not. Generally, analog mastering is not better, it just creates specific distinct qualities of the sound. Analog effects may not feature song at all, or they may be exactly what your songs have been missing all along. Are there songs for which analog mastering is a must? Definitely. So far, we have been describing analog signal chains as optional. However, there are some songs that require only analog quality. The majority of classic rock musicians stick to hardware analog chains for mastering. Concrete and Gold by the Foo Fighters is a great example of this. If you are aiming for this degree of harmonic warmth and harmonic distortion, then you can be sure that you need an analog mastering chain. But what does an analog mastering chain look like? Let's see. Our mastering engineers usually will connect the mastering equipment in the following order. First will be the tape machine. The tape machine compresses the mix well and reduces transients and high-end frequencies. With the tape machine, you prepare the track for further changes. Then goes the equalizer. Using an equalizer, you shape the frequency response. After that, we connect a compressor chain. Usually we use about 3 compressors, and as a result, the track receives the desired loudness. Here, we use different attack time settings and ratio settings. This signal chain doesn't have limiters, and we rely solely on this form of compression to establish the desired dynamic range. Then, we use distortion. Sometimes, you can use it between compressors in step 3 to add extra color to the track. And finally, limiting the remaining peaks with an AD converter. The track enters the converter with clipping, and this is how we work with transients one last time. The AD converter clipping is one of the most popular procedures that add rich and beautiful color to the track. We can take, for example, the Lovry AD12296MX AD converter, which is very expensive but nevertheless very popular. This converter creates a specific effect that you cannot find among digital plugins. That's why mastering engineers use the device often to enrich the sound of the song. Even if a song is mastered in the box, the engineer can afterward run it through the AD converter and use the converter as a peak limiter. Each device gives a specific color to the track. This difference in coloration is a result of the specific design of each hardware unit. On each step of analog mastering, different kinds of warmth, harmonics, and various levels of distortion are added to the record, resulting in the beautiful and legendary analog characteristics of the sound. So far, we discussed how analog mastering is done and even for what kind of music it is necessary. But what about the song you are working on right now? How do you know if you need to use analog mastering or not? As we explained earlier, analog hardware and signal chains can often be replaced with the corresponding plugins. There is a great chance that digital audio processing will shape your mix exactly as you want it, with or without analog emulation plugins. So how do you know that you definitely need analog hardware components involved? This is how we at Major Mixing advise our clients to look at the question. First of all, choose the analog option if you are 100% sure your song requires it. If you're not sure what type of mastering to choose digital mastering. There's a great chance you have a perfect master record with or without analog qualities added within the box mastering, so-called digital mastering. However, if analog warmth and saturation have been added to your song in a DAW professionally, but the record still lacks the classic beauty that only analog can give, then you know you need to switch to analog mastering. Generally, as we said earlier, it's very rare that pure analog mastering is necessary for a record. Most of the time, engineers use digital or hybrid mastering because it can handle everything. Wait, I just said hybrid mastering. What does that mean? Well, hybrid mastering is a very useful option which will work most of the time and create a perfect master record for you. If you need classic analog qualities or enhanced analog effects, you often can master your future hit using digital audio processing and emulation, but in addition, run the sound through the needed piece of analog gear. It's called hybrid mastering. Here at Major Mixing, we offer our clients analog effects and qualities with hybrid mastering, adding analog devices to the master chain. Besides, additional digital processing is very useful in hybrid mastering. It offers a wide range of options and flexibility in shaping your mix. At the same time, analog audio equipment helps us reach the qualities that are not possible to achieve using emulation plugins. With hybrid audio mastering, we combine the best possibilities of both digital and analog signal processing. As you see, hybrid mastering is very flexible with endless possibilities of shaping the sound, so it can be a perfect choice instead of analog mastering. By the way, if you need industry-level mastering of your song, don't hesitate to contact us. We'll do digital, analog, or hybrid mastering for your future hits. And if you like this video, press the like button and subscribe, because on this channel you'll find many useful tips on working with music. And I'll see you in the next video.